Hey guys, I'm doing a planche handstand session today. It's only going to be like 15-20 minutes of actual training. I'm just warming up, just do like 5-10 minutes warm up, and then I'm going to go into my session. Planning to do some straddle L-sit to straddle planche type movement. I haven't been training my planche as much as I'd like to recently, so I'm not sure how good it's going to be. So I'm just warming up with some protracted leans, some planche leans. I'm going to do the P-bar session today just because I want to do the straddle L-sit to planche, and I really need that clearance, have that a little bit more height. It's a little bit easier just to jump straight in with the rushed warm-up, even though it's like 37 degrees, I think, in Perth today, so I don't need that much of a warm-up. So just normal deal. Any questions, just stick them in the comments as we go. Nice shot of Rose's butt. So I need to warm up the straddle as well. So I'm just going to do my normal Cossack warm up for straddle position. So just trying to keep the shoulder behind the knee as I come down. So keep the shoulder behind the bent knee and keep this foot, Rose is in the way, can't see. So try and keep this foot flat on the floor as long as possible. And then just like floss each side of the hip, just to make the straddle nice and happy. I'm still doing the middle splits training, so I was hitting the middle splits every day. I'm probably not doing it daily now, but every other day, probably at least. So it just needs a few repetitions to warm up, and then I'm more or less at my max middles quite quickly. So I found that I haven't improved middle splits greatly in that time, but the time I need to get into the split is much less. So that's a big thing for training. So if you want to use the split in the handstands and today like in the planche. So I've done a planche lean, just going to do a tuck planche hold now. So this is pretty comfortable for me, so I should be able to get like a 20 seconds and it's going to be not a max hold. You can see I can hold a conversation. Knees are off the arms, there's no contact, but I'm just focusing on that protraction and making sure the arms are dead straight. See, I'm still messing around with the garage to get it set up for training. I'm installing some bars and some rings. Just got some bits being made at the moment, so it'll be a little bit easier to do the pull-in stuff. That's one thing I've also added in. I'm about 5 days in now of doing daily hanging, so 2-minute hangs. So 2 minutes was like my max hang where forearms and hands were really unhappy. So I'm trying to up that again. So the 2 minutes of hangs 4 or 5 days in, and it's definitely getting much, much easier to get the 2-minute hang. I've already done that this morning when I taught my handstand class. So straddle position, I'm just going to go into pancake now. So straddle pancake, just to warm that up a little bit more. I have to be quick to get my head down because Rosie comes and sits between the legs normally. So again, just trying to make the hip really happy there. So open and closing. I recommend everyone does this one as part of their straddle warm-up. Obviously, if you're tight in the hips, just raise the hips up on something. So sit up on a box or some mats or a cushion to make that hip nice and comfortable. And because I want to go for the planche today, I want to enter through a straddle position. I'm going to just do some straddle L-sits now. So just holding that position. This one's probably harder to talk in. So definitely still resting on the arms in the straddle L-sit position. I want to get that so I can lift up a little bit higher. Definitely need to gain a little bit more hip flexor strength, I think, in there to get that lift and that opening position. I'm going to tie in a little bit of handstand work as well. So I'll do some lowering, maybe some eccentric stooler. I might do a couple of stoolers as well, but the main priority is getting into that planche position. So rounding the upper back and protracting as much as I can. Hoping the sound is okay. I'm trying to get my big camera set up as well so I can not use the webcam for these, but I need to get a different cable. So let's have a little go at handstand on the P-bars, and then I'll do a slow eccentric stooler press, and then pull back through to a tuck planche. So I'm sort of warming up to the main movements now. Just trying to work out the best setup. So I don't hit the wall, so I don't hit the dog. And I'm in the right place for the camera. So that's going to help a little bit as well. So I've put the back of the P-bars up on this little carpet that I've got there as well. So there's a slight incline on the bars, or decline. That'd be incline, wouldn't it? Let's push you back a little bit. Okay, so handstand, eccentric stooler, pull out to tuck planche. So handstand should be hopefully quite comfortable on here. So tuck the towel under, and then I'm going to come down, straddle, try and keep the hip as high as possible for as long as possible. Come 3 feet quite close to the bars. So to that straddle L position, and then back through to tuck planche. So not too bad. Eccentric down was pretty good. I still definitely need that tiny little bit of clearance to get the toes through. But I find when I come down, bringing the legs down, not keeping it too wide and coming through, but more bringing the feet in and coming through like that way as you come down. So working out the best path for your hips is a good one. Hey Paul, how you doing, buddy? It's a bit hot here in Perth at the moment. It's 37 degrees, I think. And it's probably hotter than that in my garage. So next I'll go the straddle L-sit position again. But this time I'll start in the straddle L-sit and then pull through to the planche. Maybe I'll go for flat back planche, so try a more advanced type position. So with that, you're trying to get your back into more of a straight line. So a normal tuck planche, you'd have a rounding of the back. So with a flat back, knees are more like this, in line with the hip, and then that creates a flat back, where there it's more of a rounded position through the mid-low back. This is going to flatten out the mid-low back, but you're trying to still hold that planched, protracted position with the shoulders. Won't be talking as much as we go into the harder variations. So straddle out, more flat back, hopefully. Yeah, it feels hard. -2. Yeah, my parents have said in the UK how cold it is there at the moment. Yeah, it's got the extremes. I think it's going to be like 22, 23 degrees tonight for like evening temp, which is not nice. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. All the way from Denmark. You'll be cold as well at the moment, I'm assuming. Let's go with handstand again. So handstand, eccentric. No, let's push it. Let's go to, I'll see if I can get a stooler press up. So straddle L-sit to handstand, lower down to frog planche. So let's see what this stooler feels like. Bit sticky through the middle. There. Frog it. Yeah, elbows want to bend on that frog position. Let me know if you guys got any questions while in between sets. Definitely makes it easier to have a longer rest and not feel so bad. Definitely need to sort the camera out in here. It's not great. Okay, let's go for next. I'm going to go for straddle L sit through to as best I can straddle planche. Now, because my planche is a bit rusty at the moment, it's going to have to face it that it's going to have to be more of a high hip straddle planche. So ideally with the straddle, your hip would be open. So that's open hip, closed hip. In reality, when I do the straddle planche now, my straddle planche is probably going to have the bar up in the air a little bit too high. And I'm going to have that closed hip. We'll see how open I can get it and how long I can hold that for. 4 or 5 seconds with relatively open hip, I'll be very impressed with. No, it's not liking that. So you can tell it's a bit like extended through the scapula. I didn't have very good protraction. I'll perhaps actually try the next one, not going from the straddle L and leaning into it just to see if I can promote a better protracted, rounded upper back position. See if that helps. I do a bit of both. You really want a strong straddle L sit. So for splits and straddle L, like I had a stool to press where my splits were still not very good, but my pancake was pretty good because it was definitely the pancake that was restricting me when I was trying to do the eccentric stool to press work. So as soon as I got better at the pancake position, it definitely opened it up. So I would be doing a bit of both, but mainly prioritizing pancake and the straddle L sit. So as quickly as you can get into your straddle L, even if it means having bent knees and having an elevated surface. So you could use like obviously P bars like that, but that doesn't actually give you that much clearance. So some bars like this or a box. So do your straddle L sit work, so your straddle pancake work, but also doing stuff like holds in that position. So just start to get you conditioned of using your straddle and also straddle ups. So I don't know if you're doing straddle ups already, where you're going from maybe a box, depending on your flexibility. So being in a seated straddle position like that, pushing off whatever you're sitting on. So my hands are on the box. So push up to straddle, use the hip to open, and then go back down again, find the box, sit back onto it. And that's gonna, because as you get to the floor as well, that demands straddle, but it also demands a wider split straddle as well. So to get off the floor in that position, if you're like this, but you might be flat in your pancake, but your legs in, there's no way you can get up into a straddle position. So if I'm here, turn the hands up a little bit slightly easier. That demands to have a certain amount of middle split to get up. So that's a good exercise the way you're hitting both. So it keeps you accountable. Yeah, tight hamstrings will definitely hold you back. So Jefferson curls, I used to do Jeffersons daily. I don't do them so much daily now, but I definitely keep up with lots of hamstring stretching. And then one of those muscles that if you don't stretch it or don't use it, they'll tighten up again quickly, especially if you're someone who has tight hamstrings. Yeah, the hammies will quickly tighten back up again. So just make sure you're accessing it, even if it's just like this type of stuff, a few times throughout the day. I've totally forgot what I was going to do now. So I'm going to go into a straddle planche from a standing straddle position. Hopefully this is going to get me into a bit better straddle position. So protract as hard as I can, try to keep the arms straight, see if I can open the hip more. Elbow wants to lean to that. I think I've got to be realistic that I'm going to be more tuck conditioning today. So I'm going to go back next one, straddle L-sit through to tuck planche, back to straddle L-sit. So add the straddle L-sit on the next one. Yeah, the Emmett Lewis stuff is really good. Emmett's stuff is great. I've done a couple of workshops with him. His work's really good. And especially if you want to get really deep into the stretching, I found with my stretching, I want to keep it really basic and do the least amount of stuff. Find the stretching a bit boring. But if you sort of want to get like a bit nerdy with the stretching, Emmett's stuff is amazing. And he's got the podcast and stuff as well. And he's just, he's a great person to have a chat with and go delve deep into the flexibility world. Okay, let's see if we can get straddle L-sit through to tuck planche, back to straddle L-sit. So that move's really good because you can try and read it as you're doing it. So as you're in your planche position, you have to read how much energy do you have to get back out into your straddle L-sit again. Because the movements by themselves, if you have them, aren't too bad, but it's like trying to put them all together and leave enough energy for the transition. You could do these high on, if you don't have the clearance, you could do this high on the boxes, IKEA steps, the yellow P-bars, obviously yellow, the higher P-bars. I think must be the most common color though, is yellow for these for some reason. Arvind, hey buddy, how you doing? Okay, let's do, I like that eccentric stooler though. I don't, so I'm going to do that again. That felt nicer today. I think that's the sort of level I'm on for today's session. So I'm going to do a straddle L-sit from a eccentric stooler to a tuck planche. So let's go. So handstand first. Keep those toes close to the P-bars as they come through. Straddle L, through to tuck. Let's see if we can get back to straddle L. Scuff the feet. So I lost a little bit of oomph, height, compression for that second part, or the third part to come through there. But these ones are really good for conditioning. Find your gaps. They're going to fatigue you or work you in a slightly different way if you just do the sort of isolated movements. Obviously, there's some prereqs for each one, but you can sort of find your level and do something similar. Yeah, totally agree with the straddle position, especially mine now. I'm a bit out of practice with the planche work. When I was doing it a lot more regular, I started to open up into a nicer hip position on the straddle. But yeah, you're right. Sort of like the advanced tuck, frog, and straddle is more or less the same. For me, there's really not that much difference. Half lay would be a little bit more, maybe is a better progression, but very, very challenging. I'm not too much of a fan of either doing the single leg versions for some reason. I think it was when I was training with Ido, he didn't like them either, so I've sort of got that ingrained in me. I have played with them a little bit, so bringing one knee in and keeping one leg straight. So let's see if I can demo that. I'm not a big fan of the straddle in front lever either. A lot of people with the front lever positions, that's a good rest in between. So the front lever straddle, you'll see a lot of people will bring their feet back past their hip. So they'll say they're in a straddle, but they'll actually be in like this position instead of being more open. So you see that a lot with that one as well. So let's have a go at doing the one leg bent, one leg straight planche. I'll try and bring this out of the handstand, just to keep the handstands in it. You also notice I'm being honest with this side by having my right side to the camera. My right side is the elbow that wants to bend in my planche. Rosie, move your butt. Rosie, other way. Come. Sit. Good girl. Stay there. So open position handstand. Bring this knee as close as I can. Keep your leg straight. Yeah. No, it's too much today. So I think I'm just going to stick with the tuck variations for today. And it's so hot as well. Okay, so just a couple more sets now. I'm just going to go from the straddle L sit through the tuck planche back to the straddle L sit. Let's have a go now. Instead of doing a hold in the tuck planche, I'll just have a go at repetitions. So see if I can get at least 2. I'm dropping quickly on the foot position. So just hitting the floor quickly as well. See if I can get 2 or 3 straddle L sit for tuck. Scraping already. Yeah, cool, it's hard today. Any other questions from anyone else who's on? I'm going to only be on for another like 5 minutes. I think I'm getting to the end now. So I'm going to do a video about pulling strength. I'm up to everything with the pulling for the last, well, since January. So I went through that video. I don't know if you've watched it, where I went through my goals for the year. So I've made a bit of a plan and I've started to go through all the weaknesses. So I've been working on my dragon squat. So to try to get that hip mobility for the dragon. So I've been doing that. So a little bit more leg work, mobility and strength with the single leg squat. I've been doing the daily hanging, so 2-minute hanging to try and up the pulling strength and get that back to where it was. Been doing more flexibility work and more false grip work to make the bar muscle up easier and stricter. What else have I been doing? And just getting back into the planche and the one-arm handstand conditioning work. So doing way more longer holds with the one arms. So I'm going to do a video and sort of do an update that I'm going to use YouTube as accountability for doing that. To do all the stuff that I've sort of let drop off recently. So tuck planche presses. Yeah, I love tuck planche presses. I think tuck planche press is a really good way to learn the shoulder press, because if you look at the height, so let me do one now. So if I start, you can either start on the floor, which is the harder variation, but I'm just going to go today with just a normal tuck planche. So there, and then push up to handstand, and then go back to tuck planche again. To the bottom. But if you look at the hip height there, that's exactly the same hip height as the shoulder press. And it's sort of seen as harder than the shoulder press, the tuck planche press. So it's a good one to work. Now, one way of doing it, I have got a video on how to work towards it. You can do one if you, obviously, you normally would have a shoulder press, not shoulder press, a straddle press already. So all you do is do your normal straddle press position. So if my straddle press handstand looks like this, so from that position, then my tuck planche press is could be somewhere in between, like here. So I could press like there, or down lower, and press up, going up into handstand. For like in between the straddle press, the tuck planche, and try and slowly take the hip lower. So if you video from the side, you can sort of see where your starting position is for the hip. and then slowly take it down lower until you hit that tuck planche position. Or just do the eccentric tuck planche with a straddle press up. So yes, I'm a big fan of that. Can I show how to do a handstand balance? I put a video up last night, with like the real basics on how to do a balance. You just need to check first that you have a body line position. So does your body stay as one piece? It doesn't have to be a dead straight line, but you want it to act as one segment. So if I'm balancing this, it's much easier to balance it if it's one piece. And then you just need to do heel pulls, toe pulls, and chest or handstand for conditioning. So those 3 exercises are the big one. If you watch my last YouTube video, that's going to go into way more detail. It's only like a 4 or 5 minute video, but it shows all those drills like really quickly and how to do them. So I'd recommend you watch that. That should give you everything you need for your balance. Obviously, then it's just time in doing the reps and sets. Good morning from Greece. I'm training to learn planche these days. I would like to ask you who the muscles are the most important for the planche. So protraction. So the scapular position, so the push. So just getting that rounded position in the upper back. So there, just wants to be exactly the same as if you my mic gone off. No. So like the top of a push-up, probably the easiest way to start training towards it is in your push-up position here. Practice these scapular push-ups. So pushing up and around in the upper back at the top of the push-up. And you could do a push-up as well, but just make sure at the top you're protracting. Externally rotate, so turn the hands out slightly, and then start to take the shoulders forwards of the hands. So in that position like that. So there. And just get time there. So that planche lean is going to teach you everything you need to know and give you that scapular strength. So all the muscles surrounding the scapula conditioning. Okay, guys, that was short and sweet, but that's my session for today. Actually, I'm going to do one more. I'm going to do one more handstand to planche. I'm just going to go down. What I'll do is I'm going to lower down through a straddle planche and then finish into an advanced tuck, then into a tuck planche. And so just keep going for as long as I can from the handstand to the planche. Okay, let's press up as well for extra fun. So straight body position. And then let's go straddle. So protract, frog, advanced tuck, tuck. I basically missed the advanced tuck there, too tired. Yeah, all gone. No gas, too hot. Guys, if you have any more questions, stick them down below. I will come back to the questions later on, or the comments, shall I say, and then I can answer any of them in the comments, and I'll speak to you soon. I'm off to do a pull workout myself, so look forward to seeing you next video. Awesome. Thanks, buddy. I will speak to you soon. Have a good day, everyone. Stick any comments down. Cheers, guys.